After 1,000 rounds with the Girsan Regard, I'm very impressed with the pistol. I really like it. It's basically the Turkish version of the M9A1. This is the railed version, so it's basically the Turkish version of the M9A1. And I really like the pistol, but at the same time, there are some changes that I would make that really probably would never happen, but at the same time, there are other changes that I think Zenith could do, and this is more recommendation for them if they're watching. So let's go ahead and start off with something that's not really the pistol itself, but it kind of does have to do with the pistol. And let's talk about the lubricant that you get with the pistol in the box. And in fact, let's talk about the whole entire cleaning kit that you get in the box. Okay, here's the cleaning kit that you get out of the box, and it comes with the pistol. You got the red cloth that you get. It's very nice and soft. I like this. I wouldn't change this one bit. It's nice and basic, does what it needs to do. So everything else I would change. Now let's start off with the lubricant. I don't believe that Zenith really needs to stick with whatever this is. I have no idea what it is, but I can tell you that I prefer to see them go with an actual manufacturer. I don't care if it's hell, they put in a little bottle of Break Free, or they try to put in some Slip 2000 or whatever, or Impro 7, whatever. I think that going with an actual manufacturer and kind of making connections domestically would be a good idea, and put a label on it, because personally I would never use an unidentified bottle of lubricant on my gun. That's just me, but to each their own. So that's just one recommendation that I would make if they're watching, but it's not a requirement. It's just a little whine fest that I'm having. The next thing is the bristle brushes. Now this is kind of in between, like just a recommendation, and it's like you probably want to change this if you're going to continue doing this, because here's the thing, these brushes are not long enough. The rods are not long enough to get the bristle brushes all the way through the barrel. And what happens is, if you stick this bronze brush into a barrel that's over 4 inches, you're going to end up getting the thing stuck. And it's not really stuck as in you're not going to be able to get it out, but you're really going to have to pull and probably twist and stuff like that to get it loose. That's not really that great. The nylon brush is fine. It's just kind of weak. I think it's great that they give you this, but the only things that would really benefit from this are pistols like the compact MC28 that they sell, or some of the Commander Model 1911s that are like 4 inches and under. Yes, or maybe lower end of the 4 inches. I don't know, but I'm not really a fan of these. I would actually prefer to see them put in something like a bore snake or something, personally, and then just a nylon brush. If they cut the bristles in half and they only had it at the top half of the brush, that would actually be fine, and these, in my opinion, would be great. But these are basically 45 caliber brushes, and I get that it's got to be universal for all their products. It'll save money instead of putting a bunch of different kits in there. But if they just got rid of half the bristles, then it would be good for every barrel. But as it stands, very few barrels is it going to work well in. Okay, now with the cleaning kit out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about the grip of the pistol. The grip is really good. I like the finger grooves it adds to the retention of the pistol. The one problem that I had with the Beretta was the fact that it felt like it was slipping out of my hand, and in some cases when I was firing NATO ammo, it kind of does slip out of the hand when I get sweaty hands. So in that sense, the finger grooves do retain your hand a little bit, but I mean, if Girsan was even interested, I would say add a little bit of texturing to this, but they're not going to. I mean, I highly doubt that they would even consider doing a little texturing at the front, and I'm not talking about just a little bit of vertical serrations. I'm talking about doing both, doing vertical and horizontal serrations to keep it from going up, or keeping the hand from going down, and side to side. I think that would be basically the perfect thing. And I know that you can send these guns off to certain companies that specialize in putting texturing on a grip. And if you're really into that, then I would say go ahead, and that would probably be a wise choice if you're very serious about using it. But other than that, whatever. Next thing I want to talk about is the safety. Now, Zenith told me that they were able to put a decocker only from Beretta into this pistol, but they didn't say if they had to do any modifications or anything. And one thing that is severely lacking on their website, on Zenith's website, is a description of this pistol, number one. And number two, there's nothing really that's motivating a buyer to get it, because as far as I knew, with this pistol, it was going to be completely different from the Beretta. I did not know if it was going to have magazines that were basically the same as the Beretta. I found that out the hard way. I had to find that out on my own. I would like to see more of a description of the pistol. And I would like to see that, certain things will interchange, others won't. Sort of give people some information that can help them decide whether they want to purchase it or not. And of course, I like this pistol. I prefer it over Beretta, but I'm not gonna, pull any punches on this. I really think that if Zenith wants to do something that would be really cool and really unique, sell this pistol the way it is, right? And then make a deal with Beretta or someone where you can get a bulk amount of those decocker only levers that you said fit in these pistols, and for $50 more you can get the decocker only. Boom, there you go. It would be a real incentive to people like me who, I don't really care for the safety. I can use it well, but I just don't care for it. Now, as far as the rail goes, the rail is, I think it adds a lot more to the pistol than most people will give it credit for. I think it's way better than the M9A1, where you're just getting two at the front. Now, granted, most lights and lasers or whatever will only fit on there, but there are some more compact ones, lightweight options, that would go back a lot further, and I think it's great that it goes back further. So with that, I really like the rail. It seems very secure. It's reinforced in the same area as the M9A1. It just doesn't have that very vertical trigger guard at the front. So not really a big deal for me. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the trigger. The trigger on the Regard is, I can't speak for the other Regards or whatever, but I feel that the finish of the pistol, being a nitrided finish versus a Bruniton, it feels like the friction is much less on this pistol overall. The action is a lot smoother, the springs are tighter, and tighter in the sense that they stay tighter. I guess you could just say that they have it has more longevity, and that's one thing I noticed about Turkish pistols, is they tend to do better quality springs for whatever reason. I don't know what their real method is, but that just seems to be the case so far. And with the trigger, it has lower friction than the Beretta. And now the Beretta, I put over 2,500 rounds, so about 3,000 rounds through the 92FS. And this pistol has a smoother trigger than the 92FS. I've cleaned out the 92FS trigger, and I've tried to grease it and make it smooth, but it still has not come in as smooth as the Regards trigger. And all I did was I wiped down the Regard trigger to try to increase friction to kind of wear out the hammer spring strut. But other than that, it really has not worn that much. The nitride on this is very good, very good. There's very little to no wear on this pistol, except for a few key points, which I'll go and break down the pistol and show you these areas. As you can see here, just a little bit of wear here, and right where the locking block goes in, not much wear on the slide. For the barrel, as you can see, these little areas that ride inside the frame, they have not worn that much. The Beretta actually had way more wear just from racking it a few times. The only area that is worn a little bit has been this thing right here. It's worn almost bare. It's fine though. It's not chipping, wearing excessively or anything like that. It's in really good condition, actually. So then you got the front of the barrel right here. As you can see, it's just not wearing that much, which is very impressive. It's better than the Beretta that I have. the Bruniton does not hold up very well. And I know some of you were asking where's the locking block. Well, it basically falls out on its own at this point. I think that is an acceptable feature for the pistol, but I don't know, it's kind of different. But I did have an M9 when I was in the military that the exact same thing was happening, so I can't really fault it too much for that. So yeah, that's the locking block. Not much wear there after 1,000 rounds of NATO ammo. And here's where things get a little bit weird for me. You have the guide rod here for the recoil spring, and just really weird wear, and it's a really weird finish. It's almost like it's just painted on. And this is probably the closest to a Bruniton finish as far as like the features of the wear, because it's like it flakes off in some areas and then others it wears consistently. I don't know. I guess you'd have to be the judge of this one. And this is the frame. As you can see, this little area right in here is where the barrel rides with those little rails. Almost no wear on it. You can see it's not really white. It's just these little corners right here that are white. And you can see the nitride finish is holding very well on this pistol. I really like that. But at the same time, I really love a very worn pistol. It's just sexy to me. But here, it looks like this was either not completely finished or it was polished at some point. This was always this color. It wasn't finished, but you can see at the bottom of it, it is finished. Kind of weird. But then you have like a parkerization, a basic parkerization of some of these components like this. And of course the slide stop lever, it's a different finish on it. At least it looks that way. It may be a MIM part, so it might take the finish a little bit differently. But yeah, the rails, not really wearing much. And I'll tell you, the Beretta had way more wear, way quicker. Okay, in the interest of complete transparency, I need to report on the magazines. The stock magazines, well, the magazines that the gun comes with, they're made by Mec-Gar. They seem to be the same design as the aftermarket Beretta magazines, and they're made specifically for Girsan. It says it right on the magazines, right on the front. And in the interest of total transparency, I got to report on magazines. So the magazines that the gun comes with are made by Mec-Gar for Girsan, and it says it right here on the magazine. Made by Mec-Gar for Girsan, made in Italy. You get 3 of these magazines, great deal. They work 100% in this pistol. But I have surplus magazines, and I have some stock magazines that my Beretta came with. The surplus magazine had I'm pretty sure a new spring was put in this before it was sold to me through a surplus military shop, and this one has not seen that many rounds through it. But the surplus magazine works semi-reliably in this pistol. Sometimes the pistol doesn't want to eject, and yeah, sometimes it doesn't lock back the slide on the last shot fired. The same goes for almost every magazine that I have. Sometimes they'll get stuck, sometimes they won't. And it's not stuck in the sense that you're going to be wrestling with it, it's just that you got to grab the base and you got to flick it out. It's really not that hard to do it, but at the same time, kind of weird. It's not quite interchangeable, but it is. It'll feed and function reliably. There's no problems there. It's just the ejection and locking open the slide on the last round. So just be aware of that. That's one thing that I do need to report. I was excited about it at first because it was functioning 100% with all the magazines, all Beretta magazines, but then as I used it more and more, it became less and less reliable. So that's just something to report there. It's kind of hit a plateau of hit or miss on a couple of the surplus magazines. So anyways, that's just a note. Now time to move on. For the most part, I really like how Girsan makes their pistols with this with the Beretta platform, they didn't really make that many changes. They're experts in reverse engineering these pistols and kind of making them more durable, so to speak, and they're always chasing military contracts, so this is definitely a very good pistol, very, very durable, and it was designed to shoot NATO ammo. Let's just say that right now. It wasn't designed for semi-spec ammunition. That's why the springs are heavier and stuff like that. It's not going to cause a malfunction, but they're just heavier. They're going to last a lot longer. That's the difference between buying a Beretta, a civilian Beretta, and buying, one of these pistols. This was actually made to NATO spec, whereas the civilian models are made to SAMI specifications. It's a little bit different, a little bit different requirements as far as springs and stuff like that. And this is more in line with what you would see for a military contract, the consistencies and stuff like that. But overall, I like the pistol. It works very well. It's done very well for 1,000 rounds, and I'm going to keep shooting it. But yeah, there are some things that I would change if I was Zenith, and I don't think I'm going to see the changes that I recommended for Girsan, but, man can always hope, right? But anyways, I hope this was helpful for you. If you're really interested in this pistol, it's not very much of an investment, $420. Go on Zenith's website, zenithfirearms.com. I'll put a link in the description below. Go ahead and check them out. And again, Zenith, if you can put a little bit more of a description on your firearms on your website, that would be excellent. And it would be a very good help to people wanting to know a little bit more about the firearms before they purchase them. But other than that, thanks a lot, and you guys have a good one.